Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Project Podcast. My name is Ben Buddy Slack and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project and the host of this podcast. The Swan Song Project is a charity. We're based here in England and we help people who are living with terminal illnesses or dealing with bereavement to write and record an original song. We believe in celebrating lives, making memories and leaving legacies. If you'd like to find out more about the charity, you can check out our website, which is swansongproject.co.uk. The podcast features songwriters. Each episode I have a different guest on. I asked them to share with us one of their songs. We have a chat about how they wrote it. I asked them to share a songwriting tip, and I also asked them to share a song that's meaningful to them in some way related to bereavement. This episode features Abbie Ozard, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, today I'm here with Abbie Ozard. Thanks for joining me, Abbie.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Very good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. I'm good, yeah.
Good. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first podcast of 2022.
Yeah, buzzing. Happy New Year, everyone.
probably not the actual first podcast, but the first of my podcasts of 2022.
Yeah, the first podcast ever, 2022.
But yeah, welcome to any listeners. This is the Swan Song Project Podcast. So every episode of this, I have a different songwriter on. We're doing it in three sections. First, I'm going to ask Abbie to share with us one of her songs, and we're going to talk a little bit about how she wrote it. Then section 2, I'm going to ask Abbie to share with us a songwriting tip. And then section 3, I'm going to ask Abbie to share a song that's meaningful to her in some way relating to bereavement. So which of your songs have you chosen for us today, Abbie?
So I've chosen Grown, which is my most recent single. And yeah, I wrote it like 5 years ago, I think, and it's only just got released because I've been kind of going through like so many versions of it, and I never really got the right version. But yeah, this is the version.
I'm sorry for the way I treated you. You know that wasn't like me, don't you? I'm so glad that you're happy. Now it's been some time. Just tell me what we had wasn't all a lie. Just tell me what we had wasn't all a lie. I've moved on, I'd say, but I still think of you like the days when we spent all that time in your room. Now you're better off without me, I reckon. But do you ever stop and think for a second? Do you ever stop and think for a second? And everything has changed. Time has come with age, and I hope you're happy and your heart's still fine without me. The tears are left to dry. You found her in your eyes, and I hope you're happy and your heart's still fine without me. You and me have grown. And everything has changed. Time has come with age, and I hope you're happy and your heart's still fine without me. The tears are left to dry. You found her in your eyes, and I hope you're happy and your heart's still fine without me. I know. you may have grown.
Okay, so that was Grown by Abbie Ozard. Yeah, it's really cool. So that's interesting. You said you wrote it like 5 years ago, and you've been playing with the versions of it.
So no, I wrote it. I think it was about 4.5 years ago. Back at the start of uni, and yeah, it's kind of been through loads of different versions, and I kind of forgot about it for a while, but still always played it live. And then I did like a writing session with someone else. I think it was like it was last year in summer. So and we kind of got the right version. So and then I was like, no, this feels really good. So yeah, I thought, why not release it? And it kind of made sense because I'd not released anything in a while, so it kind of just made sense for that one to come first, because I guess like Grown and like I had as well, like I always do keep growing, like we all do really. So yeah, it just made sense.
How different were the previous versions of it? Has it been like through quite a transformation?
Yeah, I don't know, it wasn't too different, but I think it had less of like a build up. There wasn't much of a build up in kind of the previous versions, and then the last version, I don't know, we like introduced like loads of different instruments and stuff, and it just kind of felt right.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one. I really like the way you play with the dynamics in it, the way it builds up and then brings down again. Works really well in it.
Like on the first version, it was quite like just like a linear song, and I kind of had it in my mind to keep it really simple because I didn't feel like it needed it. But then when we played about with it, I was like, whoa, no, this sounds cool. Like, let's go with this version. Like it, and it's so much more fun to play live as well. Like we've been practicing it with the band, and it's very emo.
It's really
very
good.
Emo. Thanks.
It's interesting now. Like I think that's something what people who don't write songs sometimes don't quite realize, how songs can last for so long, and like I guess I always think it's interesting how you say like when it just doesn't quite feel complete. It's a really kind of weird thing, isn't it? And like I think again people think like, oh, you just they write it or you don't, but it's like it's almost like the song's got a like it's hard to describe, isn't it? Like when you know it's done and when you know it's not.
Yeah, I feel like with you like you just know when you know, and I feel like with the right versions you get like a certain feeling, like you get like goosebumps, whatever, and you're like, whoa, no, that sounds right. It's weird. It's really weird. Usually I just like to kind of write a song straight away and then like kind of just record it and kind of just be done with it and be quite in the moment. But with that one, it was really different, and I don't know why. I think it's maybe because it was a more the most personal song, so maybe I needed it to be right, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to ask about that. That's another interesting thing, is if like sometimes you might have a song and it doesn't quite feel right at the start, and then do you always pursue them, or do you have some that just drop off? I was thinking if this one's lasted with you for 4.5 years and like you haven't dropped it, even though you kind of weren't quite there with it, you kind of knew it was worth pursuing.
I've got I've got a really short attention span, so usually like if I don't like an idea, I'll just drop it straight away, and start a new idea. That's usually the way it works. So I've got like, I don't know, hundreds of like songs that are just one verse, and then I've just been like, no, it's not feeling right, which is really bad, but I don't know, I guess that's just the kind of way that I work really. But with this one, it was all written. It was just kind of the instrumentation stuff that I wasn't sure on.
So the lyrics and melody have been the same all the way through.
Lyrics and melody have not changed. Everything's been the same, so it's just a recording really of it. Yeah.
And what do you remember about the initial writing of it? Do you remember much about when you first wrote
it? So I think I was in second year of uni, and I was just having a super down day really, and I was going through my first breakup, and I don't know, I was kind of feeling rubbish about it, and then I kind of wrote it, and it felt like a more mature approach to the breakup, I guess. And obviously like it was the first breakup I've ever had, so it was quite dark. In like a when you're like younger, like I look back and like I laugh now and I'm like, lol, like You're a stupid girl. But but yeah, I was feeling pretty under the weather about it all. And then I don't know, I kind of thought if I grow to accept it more, then I think it would be easier to deal with rather than looking at it through hate, if that makes sense. If I kind of took a more mature approach to it, it helped me a lot more. And it did really, like the song helped me so much. And every time like I felt bitter towards it, I'd like go back to the song and be like, no, Abbie, let's be mature adults. And you know, and it's just all part of life, I guess. It is all part of life. And I think it, I don't know, breakups and guests kind of shape who you are as a person, really. Like they improve you as a person, and they make you stronger, and they kind of make you realize what you want out of life and stuff. So yeah, that was the approach.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that it was so helpful for you, and that it was you're turning something difficult into a positive, like that. And yeah, it's a very mature way of approaching a breakup, as you especially for that age, to be looking for the positives from it and appreciating how. But one of the things I thought about when I listened to it was, did you ever see or read Normal People?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, I am obsessed with Normal People.
It's amazing, isn't it? But there's a bit at the end of that where, so anyway, for any listeners who might not have seen or read it, you really should do. It's a great book and great TV series as well. But yeah, it's about like a long-term on and off again relationship, isn't it? But at the end, they kind of go in the separate ways. And there's a bit where, so again, they've both been through so many ups and downs together. But I can't remember, one of them says something about they've both done each other so much good. I thought, like, that's such a nice way of putting it, of like, you know, they've both had these ups and downs and they've been through so much together over all this time. But that just seeing that breakup as, but you know, we're both better people now than we wouldn't have been if we hadn't had this relationship.
Yeah, you can't. I think you learn so much, and you kind of are. I mean, obviously, it's a completely different, you know, scale to losing someone, but you kind of are going through like a bereavement process. Like you go through like anger, you go through, you know, sadness, and then you go through like, oh, like okay, you know, like I'm fine. And it is like it's a process, and I think it does really shape who you are as a person. I think they're important things to go through, really. It may not seem it at the time, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm thinking of Normal People now. Funny enough, I was actually watching clips of it last night.
Yeah.
You know that scene where her boyfriend at the time like drops a wine glass on the floor, and it just came up when I was scrolling through TikTok, and I was like, God, that's such a good series and book, yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, really, really good. Yeah, recommend anyone listening who's not checked it out to check it out.
Definitely.
But yeah, no, it's good. Good song. Yeah, and I find that such an interesting. Is that something you've done with other songs where you've had something like a challenging situation or something you've been thinking about, and then you've written a song as like a, I don't know, almost like a reminder of the way you want to deal with it?
It's almost like a therapy session for yourself, really, isn't it? Like it's like kind of from the perspective of what other people will tell you to do, and then you writing it, you kind of like it solidifies that. I don't know, it's weird, but yeah, I think songwriting in that way is so helpful, because then you can like look back at that moment and be like, well, this is how I felt at that time, and this is how I'm dealing with it now. So I think songwriting's super helpful for that. It is, you are kind of literally being your own therapist in a way.
It's an interesting process, isn't it? Like, how do you generate your ideas for songs? Are they like, do they feel like they come quite naturally to you, or do you think about particular circumstances or situations and then decide to write something about it?
I don't know, it comes different. It's different all the time, really. I think I never really force myself to write, because I feel like when I do that, it just doesn't work for me. So I kind of don't have like a specific like ritual or time or day that I think, oh, I'm going to write a song. Like it just usually just comes. You can definitely go through phases. Like I have weeks where I don't really write, and then I have weeks where I write loads. So it's definitely just comes naturally. But a lot of the time I kind of like to think of titles. Like I've got like a list of titles on my phone and then kind of go from there. Or like if I'm feeling a particular way at a certain time, like I'll write about that. Or like if I've watched a film, that, or like friends and family experiences. Like it just kind of depends on what's going on, really. But I do think if there's not a lot going on and I need to be writing, titles are always a really good way to start for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it kind of sets the scene, and and you kind of like when you're in the shower or you're like walking along the street one day, like, and you think, oh, that's a cool title. Like I'll just quickly write it down and then go through them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another interesting. It's I think one of the big skills of songwriting is just spotting. Like being aware and attuned to things that might make good songs, and then like whether that's titles or themes or hooks or whatever it is. But titles are quite an interesting one, aren't they? So like when you're writing titles down, you say like sometimes it's just you hear something that you think's interesting, or like, and there's sometimes do you work when you have a title, do you have an idea what that song's going to be about, or like do you just like the title and then explore around it?
I think I've got an idea of what it's going to be about, really. And also I think visually as well, it helps for me to think like while I'm writing or thinking of ideas. It helps to think like what the music video is going to be like, or what the cover's going to be like and stuff. Like I'm quite like a visual person, so it's I think it's like a really fun side of songwriting that you can think about, what's going to come with the song and stuff. So for me that really helps. So I think having an idea of what the song about and like how it's going to look visually is important for me anyway. I think I don't know, songwriting's, it works so differently for everyone. It's mad, really. Everyone's got their own like little ways, but I think it helps to be kind of in tune with what's going on. And I guess like being an emotional person as well, like getting attached to people or like getting sad about situations, like it's helpful. Like it's a good tool to have.
Yeah, allowing yourself definitely to experience things to the full and then be able to express them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's it's my star sign coming through.
I remember hearing some old rock star, I'm Keith Richards or someone like that, but talking about songwriting and saying about how like whenever there was a difficult thing happened to them, they were like, oh yeah, it's good because I might get a song out of it, like, even if it's like a really horrible situation. Literally. I might get a song out of this.
It was funny. I remember the person that I was with at the time was like, maybe I should just, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm not feeling very inspired at the moment, and he's like, oh, maybe I should just break up with you, and I was like, maybe you should. And then it just kind of like happened, and then I had like this massive like back catalogue of songs. I was like, sick. Like that's cool. Like I don't know, like someone hurt me. Feel like that, isn't it?
Give me some inspiration.
Literally. Yeah.
That's interesting you're saying about picturing the visual stuff to do with it. Like I hadn't thought of that before. I mean, I'm like completely non-visual person at all.
Yeah.
But it's good that like whatever your best use of your senses are, to pull it all together. I hadn't thought of doing that.
Yeah, I think for me it's like it's the fun part. I think I really enjoy the writing, but I think I really look forward to like thinking of ideas for music videos and making like, I don't know, Pinterest boards and stuff like that, and looking at other music videos. I find that really exciting, and I don't know, I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to that type of thing as well. So it's important to be right, I think. And it's an exciting part of music. For me anyway.
It's cool. It did remind me of I think I have tried something visual once years ago. I heard Nick Cave would sometimes I think it was for Red Right Hand, for the song Red Right Hand. I think he drew the place that he's describing in it. If you're familiar with the song, but like kind of
I like Nick Cave.
But yes, it kind of describes going around a little bit. So I'm sure that I've heard somewhere they drew this image, so then when he was writing about it, he could see the place that he was trying to describe in the song.
Yeah.
And I think I tried that with one song as well. I was struggling trying to write a song that was, you know, like quite distinctive to a place. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
I want to see what this, and it was a fictional place. So like, I wanted to see
Cool.
this is where this building is, and this is what's down this street, and this is where people might go. And like you say, it's a fun thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if you fall into
Cool.
a pattern of like, if you're writing songs in a similar process, then doing something like that, which might be a bit different.
Yeah, I
shakes things
guess
up a
kind
little
of
bit.
like switching over the senses in your brain and thinking, well, kind of think of this first and then do this. Yeah, it's quite helpful, I think. But that's a really cool idea though. I'm not very good at drawing, so I'd probably just draw something and laugh and be like, lol. That's the worst thing I've ever drawn. But that's a really good idea, actually. I might have to try that.
Yeah, I might try that again at some point. That was good fun.
Yeah.
And again,
I
like
think
just proper doodles. Like I'm not, I can't draw at all either. But if it's just for the purpose of the song, it'll get me through.
yeah, just start a sketchbook or something and try and get good at drawing. It's weird, like all my family are really good at drawing. Like my mum and my sister's literally an illustrator, and I'm like, I've just not inherited that gene. Like, it's really annoying.
But you got the
Like,
music
why
one,
couldn't
so.
I? True, yeah, my sister's tone deaf, so it kind of like she can't sing a note, so it kind of makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
You have to share the artistic talents in some way.
Yeah, that's what I usually do whenever I need anything. I'm like, help. Yeah.
Do you tend to work? Do you have a way that you normally go through a process with songs, or does it vary? So like, I mean, you know, like in big chunks, like do you tend to start with your lyrics, or do you start with a melody or a chord sequence or anything?
Yeah, it changes every time really, but I'd say I probably start with a chord sequence and then lyrics and melody kind of come at the same time really. Because I find that if you write lyrics before the melody, then it kind of, for me anyway, like kind of stifles your melody because you're trying to follow the lyrics too much. So I quite like to just write them at the same time and just see how it comes out really. But that's how I usually work. But it does change, and also if like I've been doing a lot of co-writes like last year, which I've not really done before. But it's weird because I don't know, it completely changes the process because you're writing with someone else. So a lot of the time they'll prefer doing lyrics and then melody. So I guess it's good really because it's challenging. And you don't write like that before, like you've not written like that before, so you come up with new ideas and it's like switches on different parts of your brain. So for that it's really good. Like I used to hate the idea of co-writing, but you know, writing with other people, but now I really like it.
Yeah,
really good. Yeah,
I was the same when I was younger. I hated the idea of writing without, because it's like there's a number of things with it, isn't it? It's like there's one of you've got to be a bit open with your ideas, and like, you know, when ideas are unfiltered, it's quite nerve-wracking, isn't it, sharing them with someone
oh my god,
worrying
yeah,
they're going to be like, that's rubbish, what you on about.
Yeah.
And the
it's
idea
daunting.
There's that, and there's also the giving constructive feedback to other people. I'm used to be really nervous about, and like I'm always a very particular lyricist with my own stuff anyway. Like every word really mattered to me, and people would suggest things, they were like, just like but then having to keep being polite about it. So I was really nervous about it for a long time, but then the more I've done it, the more I love it. It's so
really
good. Pushes you in so many different directions, and
cool. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's good really, because you can't, when someone suggests a co-write, you're like, oh, like, oh, my song's not good enough, like that's so offensive. But then you do it and you're like, oh no. I feel like it helps having a good relationship with the person that you're doing it with though.
Yeah,
kind of, if you don't click, it's kind of awkward in the room, isn't it? And you're like, you go into yourself a bit and you're a bit shy and you're like, oh no, my ideas are really bad. But if you meet someone and you just kind of like, you know you click, then it's really easy.
Have you been able to do them in person, or have you been doing them virtually?
So the start of 2021, it was all virtual because we were in lockdown, weren't we? Yeah, we were. I've lost track of all the years. And that was virtually, but it was with people that I I've written with before, and I'd already kind of like knew, and we were friends really. So it was really easy. But then like when lockdown ended, I was able to go and see people in person, so it was really good. I did like 3 weeks. I think it was like 3.5 weeks in London, a different writing session every day
Wow.
with a different with a different person. It was like the hardest 3 weeks ever. It was really fun. Like some of them went awfully, like as you can imagine, but some of them went really well. Like I think I had like a week where they were all going really well, and I was like, this can't last. And then I had one where like we just did not click at all. And I was like, okay, yeah, they can't all be going well. So I was like, all right, well, I've got to go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's intense in 3.5 weeks, right? And how many songs did you get that like you finished with from that? Did you a lot of them get completed, or a lot of them just
yeah, quite a few of them got completed. I think there was like 10 that I was really happy with in the end. But it was weird, because I kind of got back home and I didn't write for ages, and I was like, oh, like why am I not writing? And I was scared that I was, I think, becoming reliant on other people to kind of encourage my ideas and stuff. So it took a while to get back into the swing of writing by yourself again. Because I know once you start, I know you don't want to become lazy, do you? It's a weird one.
That's interesting. Yeah. And that's something I hadn't really thought about with. So I think one of the things when you write by yourself, or when you do anything by yourself, is you've got to have confidence in your own ideas, and you've got to be the one who says that's a good idea or not. Whereas when you're working with someone else, sometimes that's all you need, isn't it? If you come up with an idea and someone else likes it, then you're like, oh, that's all right then. Because
you just need a bit of a confidence boost, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just need a bit of an ego boost.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? And then so then when you write by yourself, you've got to develop that skill set of making those decisions and knowing when to move. And
exactly, yeah. A lot of the time I'll send I know my dad, he's not a musician, but he's like a big music fan, and he kind of listens to loads of different music, and he's really good in that way. So I always send him my ideas, and I'm like, what do you think of this? And he'll be like, that's tripe. And I'll be like, fair enough. Or like if it's good, he'll be like, no, I like that one. So I do go through him quite a bit actually, which is funny.
That's it's good to have a.
Sometimes I ignore him though, and I'm like, you're wrong. This is the best idea ever. Shut up, Dad.
It's good to have people like that you can trust a bit anyway, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a fascinating process. Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Sorry for the interruption. Just want to drop a quick note in here to say that the Swan Song Project is a registered charity. If you're enjoying this podcast and you'd like to consider supporting us, there are several ways you can donate through the website. It all goes towards supporting more people living with terminal illnesses to write and record their original songs. If you'd also like to show your support for the podcast, we always appreciate any reviews you can leave us. Likes, shares, subscribes, all that kind of business. Always really helps. So if you'd like to do any of that, it's really much appreciated. Hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast. Let's move into section 2 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests to share with us a songwriting tip. And generally a lot of tips kind of come out in the first section when we're just chatting about songwriting generally, but you got a specific tip that you'd share with us, Abbie?
I think I'll probably go back to my first point, where kind of like try and think of the whole package and think of the song visually, and I think it kind of expands your brain a bit and makes you think of more ideas. So I don't know, I always find this is really random, making like it, I know maybe it wouldn't work for you or for someone if they weren't a visual person, but if you kind of are, then making like Pinterest boards I always find really helps, of kind of different scenarios and films or scenes and stuff, and I guess setting the scene before you write a song and thinking of the title and kind of going from there, because it usually just comes straight away then if you've kind of prepped yourself for what's about to come. So yeah, I'd say thinking of it visually and making Pinterest boards and doing it that way.
And when you say about your Pinterest boards, you say, would that be like, so what kind of stuff would go on there? You say so things for a music video, but you mentioned like What other kind of things would go on that?
So I don't know. I've got one for each of my songs, and I think so. I wrote a song called Rose Tinted not that long ago, and then like I made a board for that, and it was kind of like lots of like neon lights, and like there was different things going on in the images, and I think that inspired me for the rest of the lyrics. I think. Well, I know, yeah. So I guess that kind of thing as well. Yeah, and like scenes in films as well. Like a lot, if you kind of dig deep into Pinterest, there's kind of loads of like little. I don't know if you ever had Tumblr, but it kind of worked in a similar way. It was like scenes from films with like little quotes and stuff. So yeah, for me that really helps if I'm stuck.
And then are you using them of like when you've got a scene from a film that you like, are you using that as like thinking of that as something of like how you see the song fitting, or is it like something from that scene, like a theme from it maybe, or like would you imagine a song being used over a particular? I was just thinking if there's some ways you might do it, like if you had like, oh, the scene I really like, so I'd like to have a song that would suit that scene, or that would, you know, represent that scene in a different way, or covering all those different angles.
Yeah, I think so. I watched a film called, I don't know if you've watched it, True Romance.
Yeah. I heard your song as well about it. That's good.
Yeah, and I don't know, I watched that and I don't know, I just thought the whole film was just like so aesthetic. Like I kind of kept pausing the film, and each scene was so cool. Like there was something really interesting in each scene, and I made a Pinterest board on that, and then kind of took a lot of the images to the lyrics. So like Step on the Gas was like them driving in the car, or like sad girl dress like no other, because she was wearing like a, I don't know, she was wearing like a blue turquoise bra, wasn't she, like a cow print skirt. I know, iconic. So yeah, that really helped kind of thinking like that. Films, yeah, I think films are a big one really, because I mean I was speaking to someone about this before. I think they don't necessarily come to you on purpose. I think just naturally, like the more films you watch, the more you get inspired by stuff, I think, and without really knowing. Yeah. So if you're stuck for inspiration, maybe watch a film.
Some films, yeah.
Watch some films, which isn't a bad thing to do. You can just chill, eat some food, watch some films. And also I think as well, putting yourself under less pressure is a good tip. If I find myself like being put under pressure, then I feel like I can't really come up with anything. You know, I don't really set any like times that I'm gonna write, or days that I'm gonna write. Like I don't think, okay, on Tuesday I'm gonna write a song. I just kind of write it when it comes, which my label will probably hate because I'm slow in that way. But yeah, I think not putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and just when it feels right, do it. You know, make sure you've got a nice little space to be doing it, and just do it, I guess.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Abbie.
Yeah, thanks. I'm reeling off all this advice, and like I'm probably like need to put some of it into practice myself at the moment.
I think it's good. I think like when you write songs a lot, you kind of have all these different ideas, and like you might not use them all the time, but it might be that, you know, like a certain song, like if you're struggling with it, you might be like, actually, no, well, this is what I need to do. And you say, I used to always think of it as a trick bag. You know, you've got a bag of tricks for when you're writing songs, and it might be at this time, like you're stuck with something like, oh, well, I'll watch some films this time, or I'll do the Pinterest board, or I'll do this, and like you've got all these different tricks to try and work that song out with.
Exactly, yeah, and the title thing as well is a really good one. If you think of like a random 2 words that kind of sound nice, I guess, or 2 words that mean a lot to you, then just get those titles in your phone. And I learned that from writing with someone else. They were like, right, what titles have you got? And I was like, I don't know. And then from then on I was like, oh, that's such a good idea. Yeah, titles.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I was just wondering if going back to the senses thing, if people who aren't visual, like, I'm just thinking if we do that with other senses. So like, what are the senses? There's visual we've talked about. obviously auditory hearing is a big part of music anyway, thinking, well, how you want the song to sound.
Yeah.
Do you do anything with touch? Like that's something in Swan Song we do that quite a lot when I'm writing
Really?
songs. I ask them who they want to hear the song and how they want that person to feel, and that's quite a good way of working backwards. Of like, if I want so and so to feel a certain way when they hear this song, how are we going to generate that feeling in it?
Yeah.
That's
a really good idea.
That's quite interesting. But sorry.
Go on.
No, you go ahead.
I don't know. Yeah, it depends who you're appealing to, doesn't it, really? I think, personally, I always like my songs to be super relatable, and helpful towards other people as well as myself, really, because I feel like most experiences that you go through, a lot of other people are going through them too. And if someone's going through that experience, then it's quite comforting to listen to a song and be like, okay, this person's been through this as well. So I guess in that way, it's good. And yeah, I guess looking at other people and being like, oh, they're going through this, so I'll write a song about this, and then other people will feel less alone. Yeah,
that's always a good ethos for writing songs, isn't it? It's something that other people can connect to and relate to in some way.
Make them super relatable. Yeah, I mean, you listen to some songs, don't you, and they're like really abstract. Like, I don't know, I was listening to I don't know if you've listened to much Bon Iver, I don't know how you want to say it.
No, not much.
No, I don't know. I was listening to one of his albums the other day. Like, he's one of my favorite artists, and he's just like plucking out these lyrics from nowhere, and I'm like, where the hell? Like, where in your brain does that come from? like obviously he's probably taken a lot of drugs, so that's probably where it's coming from, which would not recommend. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just like, God, why did he pluck that from? I don't know, he's a bit of a genius. But I guess with those songs, I kind of relate to them audibly more than the lyrics, if that makes sense. But yeah, I feel like as well, I quite like relating to teenagers, because I feel like it's a really hard part of your life, and in your 20s as well. Like, everyone's so unsure on who they are. I mean, I don't know, I'm anyway. I hope people are as well. But yeah, I feel like everyone's pretty uncertain on everything, so kind of listening to songs that feel the same way help you quite a bit.
Yeah. It's a good like I say, it's an important age period, isn't it, where things like that are. I mean, I think music's always important to people at different times, but yeah, like you say, at that age it is particularly important when people are unsure where they are and where they're going and who they are.
It's weird, because people are like, oh, classic teenagers, like, being unsure, and then you kind of go through your teens and you're like, okay, like, my 20s are coming up, like, this is it, like, this is who I am. And then I don't know, you get to like 22, or I mean, I'm 24 now, and I'm still like, what the hell? Like, it does not get easier. Like, I'm sorry to anyone listening, but it does not get easier. Because I guess you've got loads of friends that have got their lives together, and like, they've got, I don't know, like a house and a dog and a good job, and you just look at them and you're just like, God, damn you. And for those people that don't have that, I think that they can feel quite alone. And then you've got your 30s, and I guess like all your friends like are getting married or whatever, and then like, if you're not, then it's like, God, I'm so alone. And I'm like, oh God, have I got that to come now? maybe your 40s are your best years. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm calling it. Wait until then.
yeah. I'm 32 now, and I still feel like I don't know what's going on half the time.
Do you really?
It's that thing. Like, I remember being a teenager thinking like people in the 20s, but they were proper grown-ups, and I got to my 20s, and like, people in the 30s were grown-ups, and I'm in my 30s, and I'm like, where are the grown-ups?
I know.
When something happens, something happens and you look around for a grown-up and you realise you're the oldest person there, and you're like, oh no, I've got to deal with this somehow.
Someone get me a grown-up. Yeah. Yeah, you're all on your own, aren't you? It's weird. Yeah. Well,
that's life.
I don't know yeah, yeah.
Keep trying to grow up.
I know. I mean, yeah, I speak to my parents and I'm like, do you feel like 50 odd? And they're like, no. I feel about 18. And I'm like, okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Have you ever heard Tom Waits' song, I Don't Want to Grow Up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, I was literally just listening to Tom Waits yesterday because I watched a film called Licorice Pizza. It's on in the cinemas and he's in it. Like, since when did Tom Waits act? I did not know that.
He's been acting a long time. Yeah, he's actually really good. Yeah, he's done some
really
good films. Yeah.
I literally didn't know that because my favourite song by him is if you listen to Martha.
Yeah.
Tune.
Beautiful.
Yeah, isn't it? It's literally one of my favourite songs, and I didn't even realise that he was an actor. I watched this film and I was like, wow, he's really good.
Yeah, he's amazing. Like, he's not released an album in, I think it's over 10 years since his last album, but he's done quite a lot of films, and he did like odd acting jobs for quite a long time. But yeah, he's done some really good stuff. He's done some really good films.
He's a bit of a legend, isn't he?
Oh, he's just amazing. Yeah, he's one of my big heroes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love Tom. I've got one of his lyrics on my forearm there.
Have you? What does it say?
It's the world is not my home, I'm just a passing through.
Oh my god, sick.
So it's from Come On Up to the House.
Yeah.
This Mule Variations album. Yeah, so that's probably my favourite album of all time if I had to have one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Martha's an interesting choice, what you said there. So, because again, it kind of ties us back to what we're talking about with your song Grown, in a way. If that came out in 73, when I think Tom Waits was like 23 or so when that album came out. So he wrote that when he was in his early 20s. And again, it's a song of like such maturity. Of like, it's it's writing about a unsuccessful relationship, isn't it, over a long period of time, of unrequited love in some kind of way. And I get that's when I'm talking. I always listen to it and think, like, how did you write that at that age? Like, how did you have that much maturity to?
It's so mature. It's so, like, I don't know, his lyrics are so specific as well. Like, it's I think that's what makes it so sad. Like, it is like, but it's happy sad. It's like, I don't know. It's an amazing song though. And everyone listens to Martha. Yeah,
great song.
Yeah.
That's another good point to move into the last section of the podcast. This is where so this is what I asked my guests to share as a song that's meaningful to them in some way related to bereavement. So which song have you chosen for this section, Abbie?
Is this one of my own or someone else's?
It can be either, but I think we've gone with one of your own, haven't we?
We've gone with it. Okay, that's fine. It's just double check. No, it's a song that I wrote about a year ago now, called Grandpa. It's still a pretty rough demo. I've not really kind of finished it yet, I guess, but I thought that's what made it nice. So it's about my grandpa who died when I was quite young, really, but I still remember a lot of things about him, and I wrote it on Boxing Day, actually. I think a day where like all the family kind of come together, and I was thinking, it'd be really sound if he was here now, because he was like a big joker and like a very loud person, and he brought a lot to the table when it came to family occasions. So I've heard, and I think there wasn't a lot of people there that Boxing Day, and I thought, oh, like he should really be here. So that was my inspiration behind the song, and I kind of wanted to keep the song quite rough because I felt like the rawness of it stayed. So it's Grandpa.
Sat around with family, there's a space missing for you on your chair. 'Cause nothing compares to the thought of simply having you around, just you around. wish that I could have more time. Imagine if you never ever died. Maybe I'll see your face around sometime. I can feel you on the things that fill my mind. That would be nice. When I'm bored, I will create these chords and put them in a key, and I play them just to think of you. I could squeeze you tight for one more day, pretend that you never, ever slipped away.
Okay, brilliant. So that was Grandpa by Abbie Ozard. So yeah, that was is that an exclusive? Is that the first time you've played that? That's been shared live somewhere?
Yeah, it is. I don't know what it is. I've never really shared it before. I think it's on my SoundCloud. But I don't know if it's a private link or not. I can't even remember. But yeah, it is.
I always like it when we
exclusive.
get an exclusive on the podcast.
Yeah, I just thought
Yeah.
it's the only really real song that I've written about like actual bereavement, not bereavement. And so I thought it'd be quite fitting. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing it with us. And yeah, I always like hearing songs in. And I guess as we talked about with Growing earlier, that was the version 4.5 years down the line of it, and now we've got another one where it's like you say, it's still in its very rough, potentially early stages. It might transform over the years to come. What was it like writing this song? And so you told us a little bit about it before we heard it there. What was it like? Did you? So you say you knew him a bit, and you had some memories, and I guess other people have told you bits about him.
Yeah, so I think he died when I was around 4. So I was super young, but I think he's one of those personalities that kind of stuck with everyone. Like it wasn't like he literally gets talked about every single day. So I feel like I know him really well. I don't know, and I still remember him really well. It's weird. I think that's because like everyone in my family have kept his memory so alive, really. And yeah, I think it was a quiet, like I said, it was like a quiet Boxing Day. And he kind of had this chair that he always sat on. Like I remember it because we've got like photos of him in this like green chair. And I thought, yeah, no, it'd be cool if he was here. Like I think he just used to take the mick out of everything. And I think there was like a family argument happening at the time. Classic Christmas, really. And I was like, he needs to be here to break the tension. But yeah, it's just about that really, and just about my my nan, who he was married to, was quite an introverted person, and he was so extroverted. So like he brought her out of her shell quite a lot, and I think it was really good for her, really. So that's why it was a bad loss, really. But we all kind of try and keep us thinking, like, you know, Clive would have done this, and she laughs like it's really funny. Like she laughs at poo jokes like all the time. She's
Well,
like
who
80,
doesn't?
but I know, it's so true. Like she loves poo jokes, and like so we always like make those jokes, and then she's like, Clive would have loved that. yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. It's nice to hear that his presence is still so much there within the family, and he still gets talked about so much.
Yeah, it's really nice. You know, it shows that how big of a personality he was, really. But I feel like he's kind of still about, which is really nice. And I felt like writing that song, I've actually, I think, I don't know if I've never shared my nan. I was like, I don't think I can share her. I was like, I think it's just a bit too much, so I've just kind of kept it to myself. I mean, yeah, maybe she might listen to this and be like, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I think
that was going to be my next question, was if you'd played it for the family and what their reactions were, and if that was a concern when you were writing it, of like making sure that you did something that, you know, they felt was accurate. And
yeah, it was really. I literally wrote it in like 10 minutes.
yeah,
It just came out straight away. But it took. I don't think I showed my parents, and like I only showed them not that long ago. So it must have been like 6 months after I kind of thought, oh, I've written the song. And then obviously like mum was upset. So I was like, great. I've done it. So always good to get that reaction. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, I've not really shown anyone else. But I would like to make it into like a proper song one day, I think, and see how it turns out. Or it might just stay in the state that it's in now. I don't know, who knows.
yeah.
Yeah.
It'll work. Yes, yeah, I guess it'll work its way out. And whether it was just what you needed on that day to get through it, or whether it becomes a, you know, like your closing song of your set every night or something like that, it's kind of,
I know, yeah.
life of their own.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know if it's too niche, really. Like, I know it's important to me, but I don't know whether it would be important to other people yet, really. I don't know. Just kind of see.
Yeah, and again, it's like, I guess what we were talking about earlier with relatability in songs. That's one of the things that I found with it. It's that it's a relatable song. You know, loads of people have grandparents, especially, that have gone,
Yeah.
and again, as we were talking about with Waits and Martha, is the details in the song are what really make it relatable and make you get to see it and put you know, your own relatives, our own people in those situations. So yeah, I'm sure. I think it's definitely a song that a lot of people will relate to and connect with.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, well, thanks a lot for your time, Abbie. It's really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun. I love a
it's been-
podcast.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Have you got
Love a podcast.
anything coming up, or any releases or gigs or anything that you want to mention when we're here?
Yeah, so I've got a release coming up in February, and lots more music coming out this year, which is exciting. And then gigs wise, yeah, I've got a lot planned for kind of when winter's over. But if that's going to happen, who knows? Fingers crossed. Hopefully it will. I'm 90% sure that it will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess keep your eyes peeled for new music. Yeah.
Cool. I'll put all your links in the description of this episode as well, so people can find your website and social medias and everything like that.
Cool. Thanks.
Good stuff. Yeah. Thanks for going on, Abbie. Nice to speak to you. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be back on another episode soon.